Another edition of Beyond the Huddle is coming your way.
DB joined by our analysts again, Brendan Harrington, Jordan Hanskin, and Dave Crescenti. Started with Hanskin. How's it going, Hanskin?
Going good. Weather here's great. Awesome.
Where are you, Hanskin?
Yeah, that's all I got. I'm in my room.
Alright.
Cool, so,
things over here in Brendan's world are fantastic.
Real cool.
It's Friday.
okay, so we'll dive into it. We're going to talk about the Week 2 matchups that most intrigued us, as well as some Week 3 preview. It was a very interesting Week 2, so we'll start with Brendan. Brendan, what was the game that you had the most fun with, and which team really impressed you most Week 2?
The team that impressed me the most in Week 2 was probably the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, this is kind of a weird team because they lost the football game, but they're coming off a game losing 2 key starters, and they didn't look to be a good football team coming out of Week 1, but then they come back with vengeance. And without Jamal Charles, who got hurt in the first quarter, they played tight with the Denver Broncos and actually took it down to the fourth quarter. I think the 2-yard line, they got stopped, but they lost the game by 7 points against probably the best team in the NFL. And then another team that impressed me a little bit was the Dallas Cowboys, beating the Tennessee Titans.
Dave, what about you? Which team really got you intrigued most?
Well, that's a good question. A team that I'd have to say is the Chargers. Obviously it's kind of an easy one, but they came out and beat the Seahawks. They weren't afraid of their defense. They wanted Richard Sherman. Even though they lost Brian Matthews, I do like the Chargers for the rest of the season. I think they had to make up for that Week 1 loss against the Cardinals, and they did a great job.
Hanskin, go to you.
Okay, I think Cincinnati was the most impressive. Basically shutting down the offense that put up 37 on New Orleans, and then the team that put up 56 on Tampa. I know Tampa is terrible, but they still put up 56, and holding them to 10 points, it shows that the Bengals are a pretty legit team.
I'm gonna say the Carolina Panthers, and I talked them up last week, and they just came out and really showed me even more on why this team is gonna keep contending year in and year out. That defense was the reason why last year they were so dynamic, and this year they're showing that they're just as good. Even though Week 1 they played Tampa, which is showing that they are no contender at all. But then they beat a pretty good Detroit team who's coming off an impressive win against the Giants. The defense played great. Luke Kuechly is, to me, the best linebacker in football, inside linebacker. And I think Cam Newton, you don't have to worry about his injuries. I think he's going to manage that offense well. And a thing I'd like to note about them is those wide receivers, very underrated and a lot better than people really think they are. Everyone's talking about how last year they're all losing all their receivers. This year they were going to be terrible. Jericho Cotchery had 4 receptions for 46 yards. Doesn't look great, but when you watch it on Game Rewind and if you watch the game, he was really moving the chains, getting some key third down conversions, as well as Jason Avant, a former Eagle, who had a big game with a touchdown. So, and Jonathan Stewart looks like he's healthy and ready to go. So I think Carolina's a stud team, honestly, this year, and I think Cam Newton's going to take a step better because he didn't run to go on my spiel about the Panthers. He only had 19 yards rushing. He sat in the pocket and he delivered some really good throws.
I mean, that Carolina Panthers team. This kind of hurts it because it was against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But this Carolina Panthers team beat a football team with Derek Anderson starting at quarterback in 2014.
It's
Derek Anderson.
Okay, we'll stay in the NFC South. We're before we keep talking about Week 2, let's talk about the Thursday night game that happened last night, Week 3. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Do we have to?
We have to just talk about it for a second.
Did it make any impact on anything?
They got blown out of the house, and I think the Falcons. What do you take from this game at all? Because I mean, I don't know what to take from it.
Nothing.
I honestly take nothing away from it besides the fact that Tampa Bay is just terrible.
Do you really think they were that bad?
Really,
they couldn't do anything. They couldn't do anything until the garbage time where they got that touchdown.
I now know that the Tampa Bay
Actually, two. They got
Buccaneers
2 garbage time touchdowns.
are a contender for 0-16.
Dave, what do you think?
Well, they're definitely not a contender for 0-16. Brennan's just overreacting to the game that he watched last night, but it also reassures me about the Falcons after a loss to the Bengals last week. It still shows that the Falcons have a dominant offense even without Roddy White, one of their biggest playmakers.
Dave, they were like what, 2 touchdowns away from the worst loss in NFL history. And they lost to Derek Anderson, they lost to Derek Anderson. What's his name?
And one of the best defenses in the
Austin
league.
Davis. And then they lost 56-14 against the Atlanta Falcons, who aren't even that great of a football team. And they're not a contender for 0-16?
No.
Alright, you're wrong.
Okay, and also Mike Glennon got in there for a bit. He didn't look overly fantastic, but that offensive line suffered. Logan Mankins got hurt. Then Jordan, you were making a point about yesterday during the game about how this shows that the NFC is the AFC is just as good as the NFC because it's a balance of teams. That there's some really bad teams in the AFC and the NFC. Make your argument for why the AFC.
Well, you got to look at Denver. Denver's dominant.
I don't know.
Besides if they run into
escaped
Seattle.
Kansas City. They escaped Kansas City.
True.
They escaped Kansas City. Does that make Kansas City good, though? You have to look at the games that are cross-conference, right? You can't look at Kansas City and Denver.
Why?
You have to look at, please,
because they're in the same division, that doesn't change the game at all. Oh, please.
You look at the Jets
What,
their own with Green
what are
Bay.
you, 80 years old?
You look at Indy handling Philadelphia, and then maybe Philadelphia getting some help with the refs.
My God!
Look at the AFC, and they're teams that aren't going to be the second best team in their conference. When people think Philly's going to be the second best team in the NFC, and then you see teams like Indy beating them until the refs give the game back to Philly.
Okay.
The AFC is not nearly as far.
All right, let's move over to that game then.
As people are thinking. I think people are really overly hyped on the NFC being so much better than the AFC. It's not that way.
Okay, really? Well, first off, Denver, they escaped 2 games. Their offense does not look the same, honestly. I don't think they look as good. The defense has been giving away a lot of yards. They've won 2 really close games. I don't think they're that good, and that's the top team in the AFC. I think Cincinnati looks decent, but they're running the football really good, and their defense is playing great. Again, the X factor in the playoffs is going to be Andy Dalton. The NFC has the best contenders, the most depth at contenders, and I don't think Philadelphia is the second best team. I think Carolina is, whoever comes out of the NFC South.
What?
Philadelphia isn't to be reckoned with, though. That game, that was no fluke. It's not a fluke.
But Louis, you play to win the game.
They won the game.
You don't play to blow out teams, the Denver Broncos. The
With
Denver
a little
Broncos
help
don't.
from their zebra friends, but they won the game.
Hey, we're going back to the Denver Broncos, buddy. The Denver Broncos won 2 games. They're 2-0.
It doesn't matter. Andrew Luck threw the ball to another receiver. It was a different route that Malcolm Jenkins picked off. And there was an article that Brandon Boykin first off had contact until the ball was out. Then he let go. Then T.Y. Hilton fell.
I'm not agreeing with the play call. I'm just saying that there was a penalty on the play.
Are you really arguing that was a penalty?
It possibly would have been picked off. I'm just saying that there was a hold on the play.
No, you just assumed that there was a hold
and
because
then the horse
analyst said it. It was not.
No, but you know what? How about the play after that? How about the play after that on 3rd down? Or no, what was it, 2nd down?
Zach Ertz had a 21-yarder the play after, so it doesn't matter, even if it wasn't
after
a penalty.
the play call that got it on a 1st down.
So what? No, it was a 2nd down, though, the penalty anyway. It doesn't matter.
They wouldn't have ran that play. You don't know they would have ran that play.
They would have ran the same play to Zach Ertz off a deep route.
It would have been, 3rd and 12?
Yes, and they would have ran through the football, just like they did.
Let's go to this point, alright?
The Colts would have changed their defense.
No, please.
Okay, alright, give me a break.
The Indianapolis Colts threw the football.
I don't understand.
Really? Do you have to keep on talking?
2 penalties cost the Colts the game.
Yes, he does. The Indianapolis Colts threw the football in field goal range, up by a touchdown. Easy field goal range for... Why do they throw the football there? The Indianapolis Colts gave the Philadelphia Eagles that game.
Okay, alright. let's start the banter with the Eagles Colts. Does this concern you about the Colts at all in the the AFC South? We'll start with Dave. Is Houston the real best team in this, or is it still the Colts, even though they're 0-2?
No, it's still the Colts. They've had 2 tough matchups, and then Houston really hasn't played anyone impressive yet. And they have another easy game this week against the Giants. So, no, when the season ends, it's not even going to be close between those 2 teams. It's definitely the Colts.
Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Hanska, what do you think? Do you think Houston's for real, or is it just that they've been getting some favorable matchups?
I think the matchups have been favorable, but I'm not ready to count out Houston. Like I said, 2 years ago, this team was playoff. They were in the playoffs. They won that division, right?
Mm-hmm, right.
If I'm correct,
Yeah.
2 years ago, the Houston won the division.
Right.
Yeah. And then they just Matt Schaub just threw it away, literally and figuratively, I guess. They just gave other teams games, and I think Houston has a lot of tools. And as long as Fitzpatrick plays the way Alex Smith plays, that team could contend with the Colts. I'm still thinking the Colts are the favorite, but that Houston's not. They're no slouch.
Jordy, your Tennessee Titans lost to the Dallas Cowboys, who ran the football right down their throats. How do you react?
Wait, I didn't get to say that.
I knew this was gonna come up.
They're the team of Beyond the Huddle.
Yeah, Tennessee didn't look too good. that prediction's not looking too good right now.
I don't know. I mean, they didn't look awfully terrible. I think they're a rebuilding team, and Locker, there's some good things to take
That's a
away from
game,
both
though,
teams.
you gotta win.
All right,
It's
let's
a
go.
game at home, you gotta win.
Okay, but wait, before we move on, let's talk about Dallas real quick. Because their recipe for normally how they play their offense has been throw the football, rely on Tony Romo. They're relying on that offensive line and DeMarco Murray to really ball control, keep time of possession on their side, and don't let the other team get opportunities against their weak defense. This is probably the smartest thing that Dallas has done offensively, and this is probably the best scenario for them, honestly, I think.
Not gonna last.
Okay, they're not
gonna
last. This is the only way they can
last.
get into the second half of the season still in contention.
They're not going to keep on running the
I know,
football. They
and
never have
this
before.
is why they won't get into
You
the
really
second
think
half
they're
of
going
the
to keep on
season.
running the football?
I think they have to keep on running.
Yeah,
the
but they're not
football,
going
'cause if they
to.
keep
They've
throwing it-
had to for the last,
They
what,
won't,
20
though.
years? Or
They're
20,
Dallas.
5
They
years?
won't because they're Dallas.
They never
Dallas
have.
doesn't run the football.
They're going to
Jason
throw
Garrett
the
doesn't
football
like to run the football.
They're going to throw the football.
I don't
Tony
think
Romo's
they-
going
I
to
don't
throw.
think they need to run the football.
I think they do. Why
They
do
do need to run the
run
football.
Well, they have to run the football, obviously, but if they pass him, they have good weapons out there for Tony Romo. It's not like Romo's a bad quarterback.
No,
They
yeah.
never go to
He's
the
one of the best
playoffs.
receivers
They
in
haven't
the
gone to the
league, one of the
playoffs in the
best
last
tight
4
ends.
years.
What?
They're trying to get to the playoffs. They're not trying to. Not trying
they're
to have
gonna
a.
run
And
the
they're
ball
not
to get to
gonna
the
do it
playoffs?
on the back of the
Tony
bad
Romo.
back of Tony Romo. They're not
They're
making
gonna
the
run
playoffs.
That's why
They've
they're
got to
running
run the
having
football.
Tony Romo carry
They're
them.
not going to the playoffs, so they're going to run this to DeMarco Murray, who's destined to get hurt anyway.
Well, I mean,
Dave.
yeah, he's been hurt before, but this is what I'm saying is that defense is bad. It's really bad.
No,
and
they played well.
as
They
long
played
as
well
you-
last week.
As long as you can hang on to the football for as long as you want. Well, if you can control time of possession, I think that's key right now, just to get into the second half still in contention. Because if you're throwing the football 50 times a game now, you're not gonna last.
Only because every single NFL team. Well, just think about it. The two or what? I don't know how many teams there are out of the 2-0 teams, but I think a handful. I think the majority of them have run the football more than they've thrown the football. But that's because of the situations. When you're up in a game, you run the ball more than when you're down in a game. When you're down in the game, you're always throwing the ball, trying to get as many points as quick as possible. That's why I don't understand that when people say, "Oh, you have to run the ball to win games," but the only reason why statistics show that you run the ball
Look at the
more
teams
when you
that are
win.
winning right now. Though.
I'm still talking.
They're running teams.
Well, yeah.
The Bills are 2-0 because EJ's not throwing over
I was
25
just saying
times
that,
a game.
Hanskin. Shut up.
Oh. Okay. I didn't hear you very well.
Yeah. Geez. Okay. So.
Seriously, it was
but
muted.
also, it's not like only the undefeated teams are all good running teams. The Cardinals aren't known for their running game. The Bengals have a good running game. That's not what I meant. But the Broncos still. there's still a bunch of teams that are 2-0, and not because of the running game.
Well, that's a good point, but then you got teams like Philadelphia, and there's a lot of teams are trying to go more to the running game type approach, which is probably I think what you were getting at. Like Cincinnati.
Cincinnati's been playing like that.
Yes, and that's exactly.
They've been running the ball a lot.
Jeremy Hill's a legit running back, I think. Him and Giovanni Bernard make one of the best tandems. Like, that's a sneaky good... Like, that team, I would not be surprised if they take out Denver and win the AFC this year.
Yeah, they're a good team.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, we're going to go to Week 3. I was kind of hoping for some more convo there, but... Well, okay, first let's get this out of the way. Adrian Peterson will most likely not be playing the rest of this year after the child abuse case on him. Jonathan Dwyer has been deactivated probably for the rest of the season in Arizona. Greg Hardy has been put on that list, the commissioner's list. Him and Adrian Peterson, where they can work out, they can still be at the team facilities, but they cannot practice with them nor play. This has been a disappointing start of the NFL season when it comes to publicity, and it's really overshining some great stories like your guys' Buffalo Bills making it to 2-0, and some really good things on the field have been overshined by off-the-field stuff. So it's been disappointing in that sense.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Alright, so now we're going to move on to Week 3, best matchups going into Week 3 in the NFL season. We've already had one, which was Falcons-Buccaneers. We all know what happened there. I don't want to get back into that terrible game. We'll start with Brendan. Brendan, what's your most exciting Week 3 matchup that you can't wait to watch?
I've got one, the NFC North game, Green Bay at Lions. And then I've got another, well, this one's the obvious one. I shouldn't even, that goes without saying. I'm not even going to say it. And then I also like the, Bills at, or, Chargers at Bills. That's a 2-0 team versus the 1-1 Seattle Seahawks, or who beat the Seattle Seahawks last week.
Hanscom, best Week 3 matchup.
He took mine. Chargers-Bills. It's a huge game. It's a team that just beat Seattle versus a team that everybody doesn't know whether they're a pretender or a contender. It's a big game in Buffalo. It's going to be rocking. It's the best game on the slate.
I'll be there.
Sunday.
Dave, to you.
Sick. I gotta go with with a division game, and that'll be the San Francisco 49ers against the Cardinals. The Cardinals are 2-0, and the 49ers, lots of people have been questioning them. Kaepernick had a rough game on Sunday night against the Bears. It's a pretty big game. I think that's going to be one of the most exciting games to watch this weekend.
My game is Eagles. No, I'm just kidding. It's not Eagles-Redskins. Even though I think that's going to be a decent game. But the game I want to see most is Panthers-Steelers. I like both of these teams a lot. If you haven't told yet, I'm a supporter of the Carolina Panthers this year, and I think that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to rebound after this game. They have been outscored, I believe. I don't know the exact, but I think they've been outscored something like 56-9 since the first half of the Cleveland game in Week 1. They have to bounce back now. This defense looks nothing like they did in the preseason or during the summer, which was a very not discouraging thing after they only put up 6 points against the Baltimore Ravens. They got to keep running the football with Le'Veon Bell, which they did a good job of last week, but at the same time, this offensive line's got to give Big Ben more time. The Ravens' pass rush was really good. In Carolina, they're gonna attack the run game. So can Ben Roethlisberger take the game into his own hands and get the ball into more than just Antonio Brown's hands? Let's see if they can get Marcus Wheaton going. But the key is Steelers' defense against Carolina's offense. I think it's gonna be a really good game, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Steelers' defense has shown that they have not, or they not shown, but they haven't played well this season yet, though.
Right. Just saying.
Well,
I mean, they're a young team. They got like Jarvis Jones and Shazier. But I don't think that's the problem. I think it's their secondary. Their secondary has been brutally bad.
Their pass rush has been terrible.
Bad. It's been bad.
It's just the whole passing game has just been bad. Defensively.
To talk about which teams are for legit and which teams aren't. The 2-0 teams. We got the Houston Texans, the Arizona Cardinals, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Buffalo Bills. Am I missing anybody else? Not. Oh, the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos. Which team? We'll start with Dave.
No, let's do this.
Thinks that which team is a which team do you think is the best contender, and which do you think is the most pretender? I guess you could say.
Well, I guess for contender, it's pretty obvious. The best 2-0 team is the Denver Broncos. Peyton Manning in that offense is still as electric as ever. But the only team that I really don't think will make the playoffs that I don't see in the playoffs, every other team I think has a good chance, would be the Houston Texans. Their quarterback problem really isn't. Their quarterback isn't going to be good enough to get them to the playoffs, and even though they have a hot start, I don't see them. I don't see them continuing this winning streak.
Brendan, pretender or contender?
Who?
Anyone.
I'm gonna have to say that the Houston Texans are a pretender and that the Buffalo Bills are a contender.
Okay, so a stat with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Ryan Fitzpatrick is 345 yards passing in 2 games with 3 touchdowns. So he's managing the game, but he has 0 interceptions, so a high QBR. So I'm going to say that the contender is the Carolina Panthers, and the pretender is I'm sorry, but it's the Buffalo Bills. I believe it's the Buffalo Bills.
They beat 2 good football teams.
Why?
Why do I think that? Because
Explain to me why.
Okay, this is why. First off, I know that defense is playing really good, but they've played the Miami Dolphins, which is an offensive line that is always going to struggle, so you know that pass rush was going to blow them up. In Chicago, okay, that was an impressive win, but eventually you're going to have your quarterback do more if you're going to take that next step. I think Manuel's going to have to end up winning some crucial games for them this year, and I just don't buy it.
All right, let me just say something.
They started off fast. They've been riding high on the emotions of the buying the new team, and they've done this before. They started off 3-0 in 2011 with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
So
until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
So what you're telling EJ Manuel to do is if he's going to
I'm not saying
if he's going, I'm just saying
to the Buffalo Bills.
If he's going,
the play calls.
if he's going from Buffalo to Cleveland, do you want him to drive?
There's a difference between this year's team and last year's and that other team. We're getting
all right. Let me talk.
By those other teams, we're dominating. We dominate the Dolphins. 3 fast to the game. Defense, offense, special teams. It was a complete wash to the Dolphins.
All right.
Yeah, but it is the Dolphins. It's not like they were playing that great of a team.
Exactly.
The team that beat New England. I mean, it's a team that beat New England. That says a lot. We beat the team that beat New England, and we beat the team that beat San Francisco. I know any given Sunday. I know the NFL thing is any given Sunday. Any team can beat anyone. But it says it speaks volumes about the Bills being a solid team. They are not. Well, I'll just segue into my contender and pretender. The contenders is the Bills. Maybe not more so than Cincinnati. Maybe not more so than Denver, but they are legit, and they will prove it this Sunday again.
They're the biggest contender. They're gonna have the best record.
I didn't say that. I said maybe not so Cincinnati and Denver. And there's one team that bothers me a little bit. I still think they're going to make the playoffs. I still think they're going to be good. They're going to be good. They're going to be a playoff team, but they are not as good as what everybody's saying they are. Lou knows who I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia Eagles.
All right.
They are not as good as what everybody says they are.
Are you going to give me a chance to debate
Okay,
this?
they really struggled on the run against a team that can't run the football.
They didn't struggle against the run.
Which is Indianapolis. They did struggle.
Trevor did 70
Bradshaw
yards
did
rushing.
pretty well.
Give me a break.
Richardson did bad. Bradshaw did pretty good.
Receiving wise.
Okay. Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
He did really good. They were down 17-0 to Jacksonville. I'm still not forgetting that. They start off slow.
They won the game.
Yeah.
They scored 34 unanswered points, though.
Sure. Against 2 AFC South teams.
Okay, but one's a team that people are saying might be a Super Bowl contender.
If they start off slow against Seattle, they will lose. They start off slow against Carolina, they'll lose.
Okay.
They'll lose to teams if they continue to start off slow.
They're not going to keep starting off slow.
All right, well, the Eagles...
Okay, Dave, go.
Yeah, the Eagles' offense, like I was about to say, the Eagles' offense is very explosive. Chip Kelly, everyone likes him as a coach. Their offense right now is second in the league for yards per game at 340, and then their running game obviously is lethal with LeSean McCoy and Darren Sproles, who has played sensational through the first 2 weeks. And Nick Foles too has also stepped up. What?
I didn't see lethal. I didn't see lethal at all.
You know, okay.
I saw Sproles stepping up in clutch time. No doubt about it. Eagles did play well in the clutch time.
Okay, all right.
I'm just saying they're going to need to start playing more like full 4-quarter games if they want to continue to be successful.
Statistically, right now,
or else they're going to be one and
okay,
done.
All right. Statistically, right now, the Eagles are the #1 offense. They're not even clicking on all cylinders, and they're that good still. They're posting.
They run more
They
plays
played
than
against the
everybody else. Of
Jacksonville
course they are going to
Jaguars.
be.
Okay,
How
so
about yards per
what's your
play?
point? It doesn't matter. Their offense is playing unstoppable, and guess what? They haven't been playing that
It's not
good.
unstoppable.
What happens when they all start clicking?
They
is
played
unstoppable.
against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
They didn't put up 30 against the Colts. They didn't even put up 30 on the Colts.
I didn't say
They had
did.
0 points in the first half against Jacksonville.
They're
They're not unstoppable.
Okay, they are unstoppable.
They played against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's why I
They're
texted
not
them about
unstoppable.
that offense-
That's not unstoppable.
You haven't made one
Getting
point as
shut
to
out
why.
in the half is not unstoppable.
You're just overreacting to week 1 like you did week 1 when you picked the Atlanta Falcons to win
No,
the Super Bowl.
I'm not overreacting at all. I got 2 games to judge, and I have
Two
not
wins.
seen
You've seen
a
2 wins.
Super Bowl contender playing in those 2 games.
You know, you're seeing a team with a bunch of new
I
players.
saw a team with a
starting to
really
gel.
good offense.
Oh, really? And the
I saw a
defense is
team with a
playing.
decent offense and an okay defense. I'm not a big fan of Philly. That did a good job of keeping Indianapolis to field goals.
No matter what, you're
That's
not
what I
going to be. No matter what, you're not going to be a big fan of Philly. They can stomp on the next 4 players they play, and you'll still have something to
Untrue.
propose.
If they stomp
No,
on Washington
not true.
and destroy Washington and put up 50 or 45 or 42 or even 35, and they handle Washington and score throughout the game, I'll be impressed with Philadelphia.
Okay. Well,
I'm not a
So you're saying-
subjective person. You think it's
So you're
just because I
saying that
hate
the
Philadelphia? I
Eagles
hate
blow out
Philadelphia.
their-
I just want to see more
saying they
out
have
of
to
Philadelphia
blow out
before I
their
call them
opponents?
Super Bowl contenders.
You're saying they have to blow out their opponents to
No,
for you to consider
they
them
just have to play
a
good for
contender?
4 quarters.
okay. Well, the Bills didn't play good for all 4
They
quarters.
scored
Guess
well,
what?
and
Guess
and you
what about that? What
play-
about that?
to win the game.
Against who, Miami?
Against Chicago and Miami.
It's Miami. They handled Miami throughout the entire
They
game.
had 3 field goals.
They
in a row.
were never down.
They killed Miami.
They were never down. 3 field goals in a row. That's still driving the
so
ball
they
down the
started
field 3
scoring right when
times.
the game was already over. Philadelphia's offense is already posting that many numbers, and Nick Foles is missing wide open throws. When they all start clicking, and that defense is already starting to create turnovers, they're
Does
opportunistic.
that mean
They won the second
exactly.
football game because of the
You
refs.
keep saying you play to win the game.
Their
and now you
quarterback's
keep
missing
changing your
wide
opinion.
open
If it's the
throws.
Bills that you play to win the game, but if it's the Eagles, it's well. There's a reason why they won. Some
No,
make
I
up
didn't even
excuses
say-
for
I
one
didn't even
team
s-
if you're
I
going
didn't
to
even
use those
say
excuses
anything.
for another team.
I didn't even say anything. That was like
I'm
the
not.
first thing I've
Yes,
said
you
in like
are.
10
Bills,
minutes.
I
you
think,
are.
are better than what people say, and the Eagles are worse than what people say. Eagles can still prove that they're better. Bills can still prove that they're worse. That's just my opinion thus far.
You just don't like it because you're not seeing pure utter domination. So you don't like the fact that a team can win dirty but still win. You want a clean domination. They played the Colts.
Well, you're
That's
asking,
a good
the
team.
question was, who do I think is the biggest contender? And I don't think Philly, based on how they've won, is the biggest contender.
I didn't
I
ask
answered the question.
No, I asked who the
You asked who the
pretender-
biggest contender is and who the biggest pretender is. Thus far, through 2 games, there's still plenty of games to go. Philly can still prove me wrong. They can still prove me wrong. I'm not a big fan of how they've won thus far.
Just how they won. It
So
doesn't
you're saying
matter.
that
They won.
Philly is
Against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Sure, they did win. They can still prove to me that they're Super Bowl contenders, and they can still win the Super Bowl. I'm just not impressed right now.
Anybody else have any comments on this or no?
No, I never did.
Well, so Hanskin, what you're basically saying is that you think that Philadelphia is the worst 2-0 team right now. You're saying if they didn't perform well in the first half against Jacksonville, and you're holding that against them, even though they came out in the second half, fixed their mistakes, and scored 34 straight points without giving up a single point. They destroyed Jacksonville in the second half. It took them the half to set everything up, but they still destroyed them, and I don't think you should knock them for having a bad half in the first half of the season.
And two of their offensive
17-0
starters.
half, though? That's
And
not just a bad half.
hey, and two of their offensive line starters are out. So they don't even have all their healthy players in the lineup.
Even more concerning? Yeah, even more concerning.
I'm not saying even more concerning. I'm saying they're playing this good on offense still like that, and they're not even.
Okay, we're done with the
has not
Eagles.
been
They won.
that
Okay.
It hasn't been as good as last year.
Philadelphia started off slow last year too, and then they started turning it up.
And I didn't make the point that they're the worst 2-0 team. Because I sure know they're better than Houston. I was just saying that comparatively to people's thoughts and beliefs, Philly's not as good. Yeah. Through 2 games. They've not impressed me enough.
I'll agree to disagree. I'm not gonna.
What do they need to do more to impress you? That's what.
I'm sorry?
What haven't they impressed you? At what part? What have the Bills done more than the Eagles thus far?
Bills' defense has been pretty stout.
So is the Eagles.
They've been... Have they?
Yes,
really?
They have.
Sure, a little bit. But I'm just saying, I didn't say the Bills were better than the Eagles. I didn't say that. I said the Bills are better than what opinions have been. And I think the Eagles are a little bit worse than what opinions have been.
Okay,
I
but
think they're more equal, but I didn't say they're better.
why is it that teams like the Saints are getting a pass for being 0-2 because they're losing close games, so they're going to get it all right. But then the Eagles get knocked because they're winning those games.
I'm not giving the Saints a pass. I never give the Saints
I'm
a
not
pass.
saying you're giving them a pass. I'm saying a bunch of other people are giving them a pass for being 0-2.
Well, that's wrong because the Saints have been embarrassing themselves. Their defense has been embarrassing themselves.
That's true.
Like that's how I feel. I think that in order to look really good, you have to be really good throughout the game, right?
Well,
You can say Cincinnati's been the most impressive because they've handled the teams that they've played. Like, not just beat them, they beat them very well. I mean,
yeah, but okay, but you don't always.
you look
have
at
to,
which contender based on how well they've played against their opponents. That's what you see.
You don't always have to. You don't have to kill every team to win a game. That's what I'm saying.
You have to kill the bad teams.
They played
Yeah,
the
you gotta kill the
Indianapolis
bad
Colts.
teams.
You're just hanging on 2 quarters of a Jacksonville Jaguars week 1, and week 1 always happens.
Really, you can't base it.
I mean, you can't. Base
You're just
they
being
played
defensive
like
because
they
they're
won
your
the game.
Eagles.
If they would have lost that week 1 game, it'd be a completely different story. They gave
wouldn't
up
even
2
be
touchdowns
considered a
on
contender
2
if they
plays.
lost to Jacksonville.
But they didn't.
I guess, but all right, let's move on.
Eagles'
All right.
schedule looks pretty easy thus far.
We'll agree to this. They
Get to
played the
play
Colts.
Jacksonville.
They played the Colts. They played the Colts.
The Colts are your Super Bowl pick.
How
aren't
good
they?
are the Colts?
I don't know. We don't know.
Your Super Bowl pick.
They have one player.
You
They
said
have
they
one
should have won.
good player that
Colts
you
are
like. They only
0-2.
have one player on their team.
One
They're
good
0-2.
one.
They've had 2
One really
very
good
tough
one.
matchups.
Okay, so we're gonna move on now.
Jacksonville's a tough matchup.
All right, we'll move on. We'll agree to disagree for now until you're
I
proven
said the
wrong.
Colts.
Oh, okay.
All right, let's talk. We're gonna talk about the team that's playing the Eagles this week, which is the Washington Redskins. RG3 is gonna be out for a good amount of time, which gives a big opportunity for Kirk Cousins, who's gonna start this week against Philadelphia. Are the Redskins better off? And what do you think about this situation when RG3 comes back? We'll start off with Dave.
Well, you can't really say anything about when RG3 comes back yet. We have to see what Kirk Cousins does. I don't really think it's that much of a downgrade. RG3 was explosive and electric in his rookie season, but he really hasn't shown it ever since his torn ACL, and I don't think it's that big of a loss. And also, the Redskins' defense has actually been playing better than people expected. I don't think that Cousins has to do much with a good running back like Alfred Morris, good weapons. I see the Redskins not being worse without RG3 there.
Hanska, what do you think?
I agree with Dave. Everything that he said made a lot of sense. I think Kirk Cousins has a lot of potential. He was a little raw out of college. He was solid pocket passer. You knew that what you were good. He just needed a little bit of time to mold, I think, by good QB coaches in the NFL. And I'm excited to see what he's got against Philly this week.
I think that the Jay Gruden hiring was the worst thing that could have ever happened to RG3. I think Kirk Cousins fits the scheme a lot better. It's a lot similar to what he did with Andy Dalton. I think he just looks better in the offense. RG3 is not yes, he's a good pocket passer, but what he thrives on so much in his rookie year was being able to do the read option and be able to get out of the pocket. This is a thing where if Kirk Cousins impresses and Washington's in contention and RG3's healthy, I don't think they're going to put him back in. This is not just RG3's the franchise guy now, and it's not up for discussion. I think it's up for discussion.
What?
Yeah, definitely.
Franchise
But we don't
quarterback?
even know
No, but starter for now.
what that his starting. Yeah. Do you think?
Yeah.
Hanskin, what do you think when RG3 comes back? Is he gonna automatically have the starting job, or we just got to see what Cousins does?
I don't think he's automatically going to get it. If Cousins goes I don't know how long he's going to be out for. Say it's 10 weeks, and Cousins goes 6-4. I think you look at Cousins. Even if he goes 5-5, I think you look at Cousins and think this guy's probably got a better shot with us.
But then if
He's been playing longer.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, can you go back
What do you
to
think?
Can you go back to RG3 after then?
It depends. I mean, it's tough to say. You don't know how well he's going to do yet. I mean, RG3 has not been the same since that game against Seattle. He has not been the same at all. He doesn't like to run anymore, or he's not being allowed to run anymore.
Yeah.
And it's hurting his all of the tools that he used to be able to use to win games for the team. He can't do it anymore because he lost an entire part of his game.
Right. Yeah.
All right.
I
So
agree.
say this happens. So what happens if this happens? Say RG3 misses 10 weeks. So then he comes back week 13, and say Cousins starts the rest of the year. What happens going into next season? What would happen through training camp and all?
I think they look to trade him.
Trade RG3.
I think
They look to trade RG3.
Trade RG3, yeah. If Cousins impresses enough, you don't want to be having a guy that you're paying a lot of money for on your bench. It's not looking good if Cousins plays really well and RG3 is just sitting on their bench.
Yeah.
I don't think he's a very good backup, for one. I think he has to be a starter. I don't know if he'll be able to mesh very well with the starters anymore if he doesn't get the same amount of reps that he gets. And I think that they would definitely look to trade him on draft day or throughout the offseason.
If you were to tell me that this was going to happen 2 years ago, I mean, this what a turn of events. That just shows that anything can happen. But the good thing is that right now RG3 is still on his rookie contract, so when it comes to next year, he's in his contract year. We don't know what's going to happen. But if Kirk Cousins impresses, I agree. Look out for maybe RG3 going somewhere else, because it could happen, especially with Jay Gruden as their head coach now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that's going to end the show today from Beyond the Huddle. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to check us out on iTunes on Beyond the Huddle. Follow me on Twitter at DBSportsDoc. Hanskin, want to give your Twitter handle?
Yeah. J Hanskin57. But hit me up with a follow. Really appreciate it. All right.
Dave at Nunya Business. All right, cool. So that's going to do it.
Twitter.
We'll
He doesn't
see
do Twitter.
Yes. All right. We'll be back next Friday with our Week 3 recap and our Week 4 preview. And that's going to do it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.